This is week 3 of the class. So what we have, CIS-125. Be week 3. Went through and reviewed and highlighted just some points about making sure name, date, title. You can't do this. It's got to be like this. Variable. Same thing with doing certain kind of multiplications. Multiplication with addition. Make sure you're using the right grouping symbols. In programming, they talk about you can declare variables. Has to do with setting up locations in memory, sometimes referred to as initializing a variable. And we'll look at some examples of that. Understand the logic of the solution, and remember you have one variable on the left, some kind of calculation or work on the right. It'll do this work, and it'll store it in that variable. We'll go on to the next page. We've talked about sequence. We've talked about conditional already in the video. You come in, and inside the box here you make some type of a conditional that has to be either true or false. And we talked a little bit about different types of symbols that could be in here to represent this. Come out, perform some type of functions. It always comes back together. A little darker, perform some kind of functions, and it always comes back together. Then you continue your processing. Sometimes this is referred to as a selection. Conditional. Going on to the next page, we talked then about how it looks in pseudocode. If you have the condition true part, else, false part, and if. And we'll look at an example today of actual program code to do this. So here we have the true part, so these boxes here would match whatever you have here. False part, so the boxes here, whatever you're doing, would match here. We have the start, and the end, and the else. If there's nothing to put in the else, it's sometimes referred to as null else. We did an example then in which we were going to put in how much a person makes, how many hours. This is per day. So they're going to get overtime for all the hours over 8. And then they get time and a half wage for that. So here's an example. If we input a wage, somebody's making $10 an hour and they work 9 hours. The first 8 hours, they get $10 an hour for the first 8 hours. That would be $80. And they have 1 hour over the 8. So they get time and a half that. That would be 15. If I did that right, 95. So that's the idea of the problem. Then what we did here is we did a pseudocode. We talked about initialization. You could initialize a bunch of variables. I'll show you an example of that here in a minute. Made a legend. We got a little close together. And we inputted the wage and the hours. The example, I have a few extra things. And then we make a conditional. If the hours are greater than 8, then we're going to perform these steps here. And here we figured overtime hours, hours minus 8. There's other ways to do this. The overtime pay is the overtime hours times 1.5 times the wage. Regular is the first 8 hours times the wage. Total pay is regular pay plus overtime pay. Else, total pay is hours times wage. If this statement is false, then it comes down here to the else. If it's true, if this statement's true, then it goes right to the next set of lines. And it doesn't make a difference if it goes to this set or how much is there. When it's all done, it comes back to the end if we print out the total pay. Up here we have the legend explaining what each. And then here's a little bit of code. It doesn't match exactly, but let me highlight some points. Right here we are like initializing or declaring the variables. So we prefer to declare or initialization. A lot of eyes. Our example didn't have this, but we get a name, standard in, name 1, standard in. We'll go and wait. It'll pause the system. We'll key in the results. And then it's going to check. Is this name not equal to done? So if my first piece of data was, if it was Mike's not equal to done, then we'll get a wage from Mike. We actually get it right here. Get the wage, and then we here, please enter the hours. Standard in, we get the hours. Then we check right here if, that's our keyword, the hours are greater than 8, then we're going to figure overtime. Maybe I should do that in blue. If the hours are greater than 8, here's a command, then we're going to do overtime. We're going to figure out how many hours, overtime pay, regular pay, add them up, we get the total pay. If it's, okay, then from here, it goes to here. It skips the else because it did the true part. If the true part, if this was not true, then it goes to the else, and it calculates the pay. We print the name, total pay, right here. Then we get another name. We zero out overpay. Here's where we actually capture the name. And then we go up and we continue the do while. Alright, I think that's it for week 2.